Hi, a very good morning to you. Welcome to this program. I'm Bhaskar from BKBB, which is an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. This is a channel that comes to you with policy analysis, conversations, business stories once every week. But right now, at 8:15 in the morning, on weekdays, Monday to Friday, we bring you news behind the news. We look at headlines and try to analyze the headlines. And my co-anchors today are Janvi. Welcome, Janvi. And Muskan. Welcome, Muskan. And together, the three of us are going to look at the following titles that are there on the screen. The first one is about Indian cinema. The second one is about fake LPG connections. And the third is about how India refuses to buckle under Trump's pressures. All the three are relevant to India. Let's take the first story first. Look at the chart on the screen. What is interesting about Indian cinema is that suddenly, over the last few years, romance has become less significant for the audiences, but drama has become more significant. Is it because Indians have started shunning romance? Or is it because they become more cynical about romance? I don't know. But the fact is that drama thrillers are becoming more popular than romance. Effectively, all producers are dovetailing their screenplays and the movie choices based on consumer expectations and consumer wants. This industry is very important for several reasons. One, it's a major exporter. As an industry, it's a large employer. It's worth about 183 billion in 2019 and was supposed to have climbed to 260 billion rupees by 2024. That is last year. Final figures take a little time in compiling because it's all over, right from little villages to the very top. And the current box office hits, which is what everyone talks about, grosses around $2 billion every year. And the number of films? India is one of the largest film producers in the world. It produces 1,500 to 2,000 films every year. But in spite of this large industry, the number of screens per capita is 1:96,300. And that is when in villages, whenever there's a movie screening, it's done in the open Maidan and the entire village comes there to watch it. But it is a big influencer for India. It's soft power for India. Go to any of the neighboring countries. And in the evening, they don't watch the local programs. They watch Indian films dubbed in the local language. Effectively, if the Indian government is careful and not too ideological, it will stop promoting ideological movies and let the industry grow its own way and become a major exporter. And that will take us to the next story, which is about fake LPG connections. Janvi, could you have you?
Yes. So it has been a decade since the inception of the PEHEL scheme, or DBTL, Direct Benefit Transfer for LPG, which came about in January 2015. It is through DBTL that people get subsidies for LPG. So Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri in a Rajya Sabha session outlined the multiple reforms that have reshaped the subsidy and distribution ecosystem in the country. Now, executing a scheme like that in a country with a population as large as India's brings about various discrepancies. These could be ghost accounts that exist even when the connection is not in use anymore, accounts that were just installed once and never refilled, basically, accounts that are still floating around and used for non domestic reasons. So, under this scheme, instead of handing out subsidized LPG connections, people receive unsubsidized connections at the regular prices, and they receive their subsidies directly into their bank accounts. So, there are a total of 33.03 crore LPG consumers in the country, out of which 30.63 crores are DBTL beneficiaries. Public sector oil companies have been advised to complete their biometric Aadhar authentication of the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwal Yojana and PEHL beneficiaries. Deduplication is carried out using Aadhar card number and your ration card number, bank account details, name, address, and other things as the key parameters. The government has also introduced a common LPG database platform through which duplicate connections are identified and removed from the database. So, while focused efforts are being made to ensure that all consumers become Aadhaar transfer compliant, there still remain certain issues that lead to transaction failures, including the de-seeding of Aadhaar from bank accounts, bank mergers, inactive Aadhaar numbers, and account closures or transfers. So, what's your take on this, sir?
Janvi, thank you for this wonderful story, which is so crucial, both as a vote catcher as well as to prevent environmental pollution because housewives used to use firewood in villages. The trouble with all these schemes is the fundamental flaw in Aadhaar. As you pointed out earlier, 9 states have more Aadhaar cards than the populations in those states. And now the Election Commission wakes up and wants to clean up the database only for Bihar. Census would have cleared it, but Election Commission didn't say anything. And as long as you have flaw in the Aadhaar and there are ghost accounts in Aadhaar, you will have ghost accounts in LPG as well. Direct benefit transfer not, because you could fake Aadhaar cards, fake bank account numbers, fake PAN cards. And the flaw, the root flaw is the Aadhaar. But yes, you are right. LPG needs to be dealt with to prevent the wastage, the leakage of subsidies. Thanks, Janvi. And that takes us to the third story, which is crucially important for India on how India refused to buckle down. Muskan, could we have you?
In a move that's triggered diplomatic tensions, the United States has announced a fresh 25% tariff on Indian goods, citing India's continuous trade ties with Russia, especially in the import of oil, as the core issue. The White House declared the tariff hike just after a failed US effort to get United Nations to condemn Russia's action in Ukraine. US President Donald Trump accused India of backing Russia's war machine by importing discounted Russian oil, stating that these actions undermine global sanctions. The new levies are set to take effect just in 21 days. Responding swiftly, the Indian government has vowed to take all actions necessary to protect its national interests. In a firm statement, the External Affairs Ministry said India's position is consistent with its strategic autonomy and energy security needs. India currently imports approximately $40 billion worth of energy from Russia annually. This latest tariff hike takes the total levy on Indian goods sent to the US to 50%, the highest among India's key trading partners. Compared to peers like Philippines, Vietnam, and Bangladesh, whose average tariffs range from 19 to 25%, India now faces a significant trade disadvantage. Also, it was very interesting to observe that Trump's executive order imposing the extra tariff did not mention China, which also imports Russian oil, but later said he could announce similar further tariffs on Chinese goods. Amid these tensions, analysts say the move could deepen the trade rift between the two countries and impact India's exports, while also putting pressure on New Delhi to reassess its position on Russia. Sir, what do you have to say about it?
Muskan, I'm delighted the government of India has finally decided not to buckle down to US pressures. The US thought it could push India whichever way. Two reasons. One, India exports a lot to the US, and 30% of India's export income comes from the US. And the second, as Lavrov, the foreign minister, external affairs minister of Russia, pointed out, every Indian account of every policymaker in India is with the US, and that is a potential for blackmail. whichever reason, the government finally said enough is enough. No soft talk anymore. And in a way, the US will learn what it means to try pushing countries like India very strongly. It's learned that lesson with China, and that is why it's quiet with China. It'll learn that lesson with India. And all eyes will be next year when India assumes presidency of BRICS, when India will explain what India stand and the BRICS stand vis-a-vis the US will be. India is now getting ready for a new phase of international global relations. Let's see what happens. But thank you, Muskan. A wonderful story. And that, in a way, takes me to the end of today's session and to the other part of the session, which is looking at comments and questions. But before I get there, my usual reminder, please click the subscribe button if you have not clicked it already. Click the like button. It helps us immensely. But most important, please tell all your friends about us. As I've always mentioned, we are growing, but we need to grow faster. And now let's take up the comments that have started coming in. Why Adani is not being served with an SEC notice for India? That is a corporate matter. Our stories today are what we have talked about, and that is geopolitics. Don't bring politics into geopolitics or into business. We ignore that question, but let's take the next comment. Will India be successful in putting pressure on India? No, it won't be successful if India plays its cards very well. India has its own strengths. India has its own strategic importance. And till now, the US needed India. It'll discover sooner or later it will need India still. And that takes us to the next question. Can the government stop fake LPG connections from going around? No, it can't. Not till the Aadhar mess is cleared up. Not till the census is over. Nothing can clear up the Aadhar mess till the census is over. Because census allows a government official to go from door to door and check with neighbors every person who is there. So people are dead, people are missing, people are not there, people who got duplicate accounts, all get trapped in the census data. And it's sad that the government did not allow the census to take place in 2011. And that takes us to the last question about cinema. Can Indian cinema become even a larger exporter? Yes, it can. It just needs the right incentives. It needs to make sure that the government does not start a witch hunt against individuals in the cinema industry. The Indian cinema is a very vibrant industry, a big employer, a big revenue earner, and a big influencer of people around this country, the diaspora. And that is why this industry will do well, and with or without the government. A little bit of government cooperation and coordination will help it grow faster. And that, in a way, takes me to the end of today's session. It was wonderful being with you, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Ah, yes, we've got one more question coming in. We have time. And the question is very simple. It talks about what should India's strategy be with the US in the future? Nothing. India should just stand its own ground, protect its interests. Every strategy falls into place if you have a clear focus. Till now, India was kowtowing to certain interests, to the point that it began importing goods which hurt Indians. If India can look after its own interests, India will do very well. And that takes me to the end of today's session. Have a wonderful day ahead, and I look forward to seeing you once again tomorrow morning. Take care. Good luck.